Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today we have a team report from Knoxville Regionals, and I am joined by another top player. I am joined by Nora. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to have you on the channel. It's been a couple of years now, almost, since you've been on here. But I'm excited to hear about the team that you used to get top eight at Knoxville Regionals. But I guess first, it has been a couple of years. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself in case they didn't watch that last video?
Okay, well, I'm Nora. I've been playing VGC for about 5 years. This top eight has been something I've been chasing for a while. The last time I was on the channel, I was here for a top 16. So pushing that up one step feels really good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Knoxville was a really big event. It was like, what was it? It says over here something 467 players. I thought it was like over 500 registered. And you got all the way through, went 11-3 into top eight, and then lost to eventual finalist James Evans. And you used this team. So tell me a little bit about your team building process and your preparation for this tournament. How did you end up on this team?
So for Charlotte, I had no idea what to bring until like Thursday. I decided I would just throw something random together and just run with it. And then I went 6-3 with that. But um I didn't want to take that and go forward with it because it was like a desperation pick. So my team building for this event, I started with Wolf's Charlotte team, and I have three Pokemon from that team remaining, but that's the structure I started with when I was building. I looked at the team and I was like, I need to stop thinking about what everyone else is doing and think about what I'm good at because I know I'm good at some things because I've done really well before. So I need to focus on what I know I'm good at and keep doing that. And what I'm really good at is Incineroar Amoonguss. So I was like, okay, well, if you've got two good grass types, I've got a better one. I've got a mushroom.
Yeah. And Instant Amoonguss kind of wasn't anywhere to be found early in the metagame. It didn't really do well at Portland, and then Neil cut Charlotte with it, and he I think is the only one in cut. But more recently, it's been seeing a little bit more of a resurgence. Talk to me about how you started with Instant Amoonguss. How did you end up building these partners? Because this is very different than a lot of the other Instant Amoonguss teams we've seen.
Um, I I know I wanted to have Scarf Urshifu. I was talking to Kazuki, a really, really good player also from upstate New York, leading into the tournament, and we agreed that Scarf Urshifu is just broken, especially with balance. And then it just made sense to keep the Fargraph because I was starting with the general structure of Wolf's team and trying to slot an Amoonguss on there. So I put Assault Vest Raging Bolt there just because I think it's really good. I think it was really, really underused. I think a lot of people um, around the same time as me realized how phenomenal Assault Vest Bolt is. It's just incredibly bulky and provides a lot of utility, and mine is extremely offensively invested and has Draco Meteor, so it trades damage very, very well. And then for most of my testing, I had Fluttermane in the last slot because I wanted something with a decent speed tier that could do damage. And then I realized the team was pretty ground weak, so I added a Landorus over that slot just because it's decently fast and has solid damage output and allows me to defensively switch a lot better.
Yeah, that. makes a lot of sense and definitely a really, really good choice for this tournament. I think Landorus really popped off this tournament. Instant Amoonguss we've seen again do really well recently. So yeah, a lot of it looks like a lot of really strong Pokemon, a lot of Pokemon that have been doing really well. And I don't know, I feel like I don't know about you, but I feel like in this metagame, whenever I look at almost any team, it looks like oh yeah, those are definitely six good Pokemon. But it's always really interesting to hear how the thought that thought
Well,
behind
I
putting them
I
together.
think this team is five good Pokemon in a Furgraph.
You know, I would say that too, but I feel like I'd annoy some people in the comments if I did. But yeah, so and so you talked about the about how you weren't comfortable with your team at Charlotte, and then you started with what did well at Charlotte and adapted to here. Uh, tell me a little bit about your preparation process. Did you feel like you were prepping a lot of the specific matchups, or were you just trying to do the most powerful thing possible?
Um, I wasn't strictly trying to do the most powerful thing possible. I was trying to do a very powerful thing that suits how I'm good at playing the game. Because I used to be one of the people who thought playstyle was fake and it's just an excuse not to run the optimal thing. But we're all humans playing Pokemon, and none of us have infinite time to prepare. So no one can take the theoretically optimal team for any event and play it perfectly. So knowing your comfort when approaching the game is a way to sort of shortcut not being able to be perfectly optimal.
I 100% agree with that. And so let's talk about the team and the individual Pokemon and you know why they are trained the way they are, their V spreads, the item choices, the Terra types, etc.
Um, so the the Terra types were the last thing for me to nail down on the team. It's funny, I said nail down. Nick Nails helped me pick Terras for the team. So, um, between the Raging Bolt, Amoonguss, and Farigiraf, I knew I wanted two of them to be Terra Fairy and then one of them to be Terra Fire. And then it was about figuring out which should be which because I wanted two of them to be able to defensively Terra in front of Dark Urshifu, and the other to have like a really good defensive Terra into Chi-Yu Fluttermane. And then Urshifu and Landorus are pretty straightforward offensive Terras. Um, I was very close to running Steel on the Landorus, but there were a few Sludge Bomb calcs that Poison pushed over the edge, specifically on like bulky Wellspring Ogerpon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Terra Poison Incineroar is just that Fluttermane does a lot of damage, and I like my Incineroar to not be dead. And the fighting resist is really nice. Not having a Terra that isn't ground weak on Incineroar made it hard, but um, I beat a few. I think I beat one or two Lando I, and then I lost one in top eight, but he's also James Evans. He just played better. I don't think the Incineroar Terra was what was holding me back.
And I guess to talk about you know one of the more other interesting decisions that you had to make, you have substitute on your Landorus instead of Sandseer Storm. Tell me about why you made that choice.
Um, so the Incin Among Us teams with Wellspring Ogerpon would have been really difficult without substitute, just because they get to have three spore immunities and I only have two. So substitute allows me to be more aggressive and actually start putting on pressure in that matchup. Because if you look at both of my spore immunities, they're very defensive, supportive pieces. And then Ogerpon Wellspring gets to be offensive. So then having a very, very safe, if they lead a Mungus, I can just click fake out and substitute turn one, and they can't do anything. And then Lando can start attacking. That having that line was the main reason I went with substitute. And then it also just helped in miscellaneous positions, just because I have I have so many supporting options on the team. It's not hard to create the space to get a substitute up.
Hmm. Makes a lot of sense. And then you got a lot of very interesting EV spreads. I think a lot of these Pokemon often you will see run 252, 252, especially the Urshifu and the Landorus. Talk to me about what you meant to accomplish with your EV spreads.
The Landorus is so if Jolly Ogerpon Terra Waters and I Terra Poison, the Ivy Cudgel can't kill without a crit. And the Urshifu is so Speed Booster Fluttermane. If they go for Terra Fairy Moonblast and I Terra Water, I'll live it, which is very important. Both of those were very important calcs throughout the tournament.
Yeah, and then I guess moving on to the Farigiraf. This looks like the wolf set on the Farigiraf, and it doesn't look like he made any changes there. I'm not sure what his EV spread was, but did you consider making any changes in the Farigiraf? And tell me about the EV spread.
Um, I was really close to running Psyshock, just to hit Fluttermane harder. But then I had to go Psychic because the Como team was picking up, and I was like, okay, I need to pressure Como because if Farigiraf can't pressure it into using the Terra Steel, then Landorus can't beat it.
Hmm.
And the spread, I honestly have no idea what it does. It's just the one Kazuki sent me.
Uh, Gotcha. And then yeah, I guess
I I,
uh,
I trust him. I trust him to know what's up.
I mean, it looks like a special attack jump point, and then a lot of bulk, which is kind of all you need with Farigiraf. And I mean, I imagine Wolf was running something similar. I saw his hit really hard; it had to be modest, right? And so it
Yeah.
seems like a Farigiraf spread. Seems like Farigiraf is doing what it's meant to do, and the EV spread itself.
I've regrettably used Farigiraf a lot. His was definitely modest.
Yeah. And then you mentioned you had a lot of special attack investment on your Raging Bolt, which is definitely true. Tell me about that EV spread if you had any calcs in mind there.
Um, Draco one shots Glamora. Even if they have a little bit of bulk, it's still a 100% kill. Well, technically 90 because of accuracy, but it's Pokemon. There's luck in the game. You have to know when to take risks.
They also only have a 90% chance of hitting Meteor Beam, so it kind of evens out.
And Meteor Beam isn't going to kill you, so the exchange is in your favor.
Hmm?
It's it's the highest special attack jump point, and that it felt correct to have a Raging Bolt that actually threatened things because I played someone using the Edu team, the one Toller used to win. I played someone on that team in day two, and my Raging Bolt was two-shotting the Golden Go with Thunderbolt. It was it's really important the amount of damage
Hmm.
because the team has Incineroar and Amoonguss aren't really offensive pieces. So then if you only have four things that can do damage, I really wanted to make sure that even with Raging Bolt needing to serve as a defensive pivot, it could also trade damage very efficiently.
Hmm. Makes a lot of sense. Are there any other EV spreads, item choices, etc., that you wanted to focus on?
Um, Throat Spray for Farigiraf is amazing. Wolf's a genius. I didn't think of it, but he did. My win in day two against Jesse, game three, I pressured his Glamora to Terra Grass with my, I think either Urshifu or Landorus, one of them, and then the grass type Glamora was two shot in Trick Room by Hyper Voice into +1 Hyper Voice, and that just, oh, and so was his Ogre Pawn, and just Hyper Voice double KO won me that game.
Hmm. And it's interesting you bring up the Glamora matchup because I know that that was Wolf's one loss at Charlotte, and I know Antonio Roxen was on Tub Takes, and he was talking about how that he was freaking out about that matchup. He lost to it in Swiss, and he managed to somehow manage to win in Top Cut against it. But it looks like what you've done is you've taken a lot of the core of Wolf's team, but you managed to make it a little more resilient into, or in fact, a lot better into the Glamora team, which I think is a really cool way to adapt the Instant Amoonguss core that otherwise struggles. I think against a lot of offensive pressure. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I still think the matchup is at least really close to 50-50, but it's not a losing matchup anymore because with Landorus and Raging Bolt, you can effectively match the amount of pressure they're putting on. And then instead of just they kill all of your guys, it's you're trading kills every turn.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you didn't come into this tournament with a lot of flowcharts or anything, but tell me a little bit about how to actually play the team. Did you have any common leads or common modes that you'd bring, or did you have any matchups where you felt like you really needed to bring a certain specific set of Pokemon?
Um, Against opposing Incinemungus, you always bring your own Incinemungus and the Landorus, and then the last is probably Raging Bolt or Urshifu. I can't really imagine a world where Furigraph is correct in that sort of matchup. Um, just because it's not applying enough immediate pressure. Um, Furigraph doesn't really come at all except for Side Spam and Tailwind Hyper Offense. But it's very much necessary in those matchups, and it does its job. Um, for Casty's team, which I played against a couple times. I think I played against it twice. The one in day one was just I got blown out. The one against Justin I lost because I missed Draco, but like it's Pokemon that happens.
This team, for
So
context. Right.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what makes it really difficult is the Speed Booster Flutter also has Taunt, so Amoonguss isn't really that happy. Um, so Nick helped me figure out this line. You can lead Urshifu Amoonguss and just force them to make reads. Like, ooh, do they Icy Wind or Blast or do they Taunt? Because you're just threatening so many things that um it isn't the most consistent line, but if you can outplay them, you'll be fine. Because they have no possible way to cover everything you're threatening with that lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
Incineroar should come in every single game, I think. Um, yeah, I don't really see a situation occurring with this team where you don't bring Incineroar or where not bringing Incineroar is correct. Amoonguss, sometimes they just have enough Amoonguss hate, but even with enough Spore hate, it switches in on Wellspring Ogrepon, and then they can't. It forces the Ogrepon to click follow me, so it's not doing anything. And then you can either, and if they have taunt, you can still side pollen puff and be extremely bulky. It still has a lot of utility. And a really cool thing you can do with the Amoonguss into taunt, especially the taunt Flutter main. If you read they're going to go for a taunt, you can protect the Amoonguss and then force them to click another taunt, which means their Flutter main's not doing anything. And then if the thing you have next to Amoonguss beats the thing that's not the Flutter main, you're fine.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then one thing I really like about all the Incineroar Amoonguss teams is that, especially with something like AV Raging Bolt that has so much all these Pokemon are so versatile. Like you mentioned, you can bring Incineroar to every matchup, and so and
You should. It's the best Pokemon.
and like you said, Amoonguss, even in matchups where it looks like Water Ogre Pond might shut it down, where Taunt Fluttermane might shut it down, it sounds like it exerts a lot of pressure. And the AV Raging Bolt, of course, we've seen that everywhere recently. I think every single Raging Bolt except for one in day 2 of this tournament was Assault Fest, and that Pokemon is also so well used because it feels like it can show up to every single matchup and put in work. And so that is one thing that I think is really cool about this team is that every Pokemon is so versatile. Every Pokemon, it feels
Except
like,
for Furigраф.
except for
It's 5 very, very good, versatile Pokemon. And then Furigраф, that patches 2 matchups. And then can also come in a best of 3 if you feel like trying to catch someone going for fake out into your Urshifu.
Yeah, makes sense. And so I guess on that note, let's talk about your run itself. Tell me a little bit about your experience at Knoxville Regionals.
Well, I tend to like go into like a hyper focused state when I'm at tournaments, especially when I'm playing. So I honestly don't remember any of these sets. I let the spirit of Incineroar take over my body and do the work. But
Okay, so
um
any highlights from day 1 or day 2? Any sets that
um
you want to talk about?
the set against Joe was really funny because there were multiple turns where so Joe's a player where he really hates doing like the obvious safe good thing. He always wants to be extra. So there were multiple turns where I could just have my Landorus in front of his Chien-Pao clicking attacks. And that won me the set. Just
In that
him
he just never
thinking
wanted to
my
click Ice Spinner.
Landorus. Um, I knew he wasn't going to click Ice Spinner because he thought I would protect because he tries to go to that higher level of play, but then you can just be stupid.
I'm taking notes. I need to learn how to beat Joe.
I think I've only lost to Joe once in tournament.
All right, I've found I found the strategy that's very useful.
I've beat him at every regional I've played him at. He only beat me in I think a Premier Challenge.
Yeah, we've played in Winnenins in 4 straight years, and I've lost every single one. So I'm gonna try that next time. 2025 is my year.
Yeah, just lower your IQ a little bit. You'll be fine.
And then so you went 8-1 in day 1, and it looks like your one loss was to this is the Cassie team, right? To
Yes.
Drew Brown. And then you like you said you played that in day 2 as well. You talked a little bit about how you approached that matchup against Justin. Were there any
I feel like with like the line Nick told me about that I then use, I think in 2 of the games of that set, um, I could have definitely won the set if RNG was slightly better, and then if I play the RNG forced me to make like the Draco Meteor Miss didn't lose me the game on the spot. It just made it a lot harder and forced me to into making more uncomfortable reads that I didn't get right. But that's Pokemon. But I feel like it's definitely a playable matchup, and Justin is just a really good player. So just against the team in general, I think the matchup's fine. It just it makes you work a little harder.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and so you actually started out with 2 losses in day 2 before winning out. And honestly, I'm surprised that starting 0-2 in day 2, you had the resistance to make top cut. But I guess all of your opponents were really, really good players. Uh, did you have any Did you have any other rounds in day 2 that you wanted to talk about?
Top eight. James is just I love you, man. You're so good at Pokemon. But like please stop popping off so much. It's a little distracting.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been there sitting next to him before, so I can
Yeah.
imagine that. Did you have any notes about what actually happened in the match? I forget. Was it streamed?
No.
Okay.
It
Um,
should have been. It was a really good set.
yeah, and it's
So,
go ahead.
game one, game one, there was an end game where I thought I had it sealed, and then he got a double protect to get back into it, and then I got a crit to get back into it, and then he got his own crit to seal it.
You know,
So,
I don't know how. I feel like James always gets into to crazy matches like that.
yeah, I don't know. It's for the bet. He has to
It
do it for the bet.
he's the protagonist.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and then so game 1 sounds like a lot of critical hits. Anything you said, and it sounds like it was a close set. So I imagine it went to
It
game
was
3.
a very close set. Um, game two was also really close, where, like in the mid game, um, I think I tried to go for reads that I didn't need to go for, and then like I was nailing most of my reads, for most of the tournament, but I can't do that forever, and I didn't get them right.
Hmm.
So it was a 2-0 for him, but it was a really close, really good set. And I am still happy with how I played it. There are definitely things in some places where that I can tighten up, but overall I think I played it well.
Hmm. And I mean, you run. I'm again looking at this list. You played so many good players, so many players who did especially well over the course of your run, and so it was a really impressive performance. And like James, such a good player. No shame in losing to James in top 8. And yeah, I mean, 500 person tournaments. I mean, I've never gotten top 8. That was like you said that it's really hard to break out of that top 16, top 32, making day 2. And then you managed to get into, and you've done that multiple times at this point. Finally make a top cut with this team, and this team looks incredibly strong. It looks like you talked about, incredibly flexible, and it does a lot of the same things that Wolf Charlotte team does, except maybe it has a little bit more of a robust matchup spread. So I definitely would recommend that you try it out. We've got the rental code on screen, and the paste will be in the description down below. Did you have any final words or shout outs that you want to give?
I want to shout out Nick Nails OU and Matt Grandma's Cooking for helping me finalize the team, and then I also want to shout out Shira and Licia, my girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, congratulations once again on the incredible performance. Like I said,
Thank
definitely
you.
recommend that everyone tries this team out. I think it's really strong. And yeah, until next time, I will see you all later.